Hello and welcome everybody. This is the April 14th Neureal Community Live Stream. My name's Kyler Anderson. I'm the Community Manager for the Neureal Project, and today I'm almost by my lonesome, but luckily we've got Jake Weiser with us. Jake's an advisor on the project and works in the marketing side. Jake, why don't you go ahead and say hi? Gotta unmute your mic first.
Hey everybody, I'm Jake Weiser. I help out with some of the, advising on what to do on some of the channels.
Yep, Jake's also got a number of other roles with a couple of other cryptocurrency, blockchain projects at any rate. We'll get more into that here in a minute, but what I want to do first is get down into the news of what we've got going on this week and to say hello to everybody out there. Hi, I know Shadow's here. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Remember, if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button and give us a little like. That helps us out in the algorithm. So moving on into business this week. Guys, we're about to launch our bounty program. It's fully programmed, and right now we're just integrating the shell that the bounty program company gave us into our own website, which, by the way, if you haven't been to the new website and checked that out yet, you need to do so because it looks gorgeous. We have a fantastic blog section there now where we've got a lot of material that we've been kind of saving for our own blog section, written by one of our advisors. It's fantastic. You really got to go check it out. Shadow says hi, by the way, Jake. Hello there. Along with that bounty program, that's going to be a referral program as well, guys. It's going to give you tokens simply for doing things that are useful to the Neureal project, like sharing. It's also going to be the way that we're going to be able to bring on a lot of influencers and creators into our community. As there's a mechanism there to automatically reward them to a higher degree if they have more followers for doing stuff like tweeting and making posts and that kind of thing, and videos as well. We're also being approached by a number of people. This isn't necessarily news, but it's definitely something that I wanted to cover. We've been approached by a number of people that are claiming to be various large influencers. And generally it follows a pattern where they talk about how many followers they have, and then they point us to the influencer's page, and then request large amounts of money in order to cover our project. And I want to make real clear right now, we're never going to pay somebody to do that, not directly. Like, in the opinion of the internal team, I used to be a journalist. I worked for NPR for a little while, and I shudder at that kind of thing because it entirely removes the credibility of the person that's, if it were really them, it entirely removes the credibility of the person who's offering the review. I mean, what are they going to do? Take a couple $1,000 worth of Ethereum and then look at a project that's a complete scam and then make a video saying, "Hey, it's a big scam. Thanks for giving me your money." No, that's not how that works. And additionally, it removes a lot of incentive for that person to be critical about the project in the first place, which we want. We don't want just a yes man saying how great our coin is unless they actually believe it. So what we're going to be doing with creators and people like that is moving them more towards the same bounty program. Because they're only taking payment in our token. Payment is dependent on how well they actually do and the number of people they actually bring into the project. And they're forced to do their research, because if our project is a scam and doesn't work out, then they don't get anything out of the coins. Does that make sense? So just so that you're aware, guys, we're not really entertaining stuff like that. I don't know if a lot of other projects are. Kind of makes me feel sad a little bit for the state of the crypto community, if that's kind of a standard thing that most channels are trying to do. But again, not where we're at. Additionally, guys, Will has been incredibly hard at work at the code. He's got all of our tanks finished. Well, not finished, but almost done. They need to be reviewed to some degree, but everything's looking great there. We've also been approached by, and we are approaching a number of projects to announce strategic partnerships, so look for that coming up very soon. There's a lot of projects, and not just in our space, but kind of all over the place, that would benefit from predictive AI that are already in the works right now, that it would benefit them greatly if we succeeded, and they see that, and so they're trying to figure out what they can do to help us succeed, and it's really exciting. So to segue into that, Jake is actually part of a project that could be fantastically supercharged by Neureal as well. Jake, do you want to take a second and explain to anybody who's out there who doesn't know quite yet what KureCoin is?
KureCoin is a crypto asset or token or whatever you want to call it that rewards or incentivizes users to do molecular research, like protein folding, to help find cures for cancer and Alzheimer's and other major diseases. So when you incentivize research, obviously you create competition. Competition creates, etc. I'm not allowed to talk about all that because of lawyer crap, but whatever.
Isn't that the bane of our existence?
Yeah. One thing that AI can do with this project is advance or enhance or speed up the process of finding the way that molecules or proteins fold, the way the amino acids react with the liptides and everything like that. And when it misfolds, it creates, cancer and Alzheimer's. But if you understand it with a computer and you understand how they fold, you can unfold them. But with the AI, if you're able to predict the way that they fold, you can understand it faster, and create like a medical revolution, if you will.
Absolutely.
That kind of stuff.
Absolutely, and I just want to add on to what you're saying there for a little bit, Jake. KureCoin's actually an extension of a program that's been around for quite a long time. I believe it was Stanford that put it together. It's called Folding at Home. And I remember this from, oh gosh, I want to say they started that in like 2010. Am I right, Jake? It's Folding Home's been around for a long time.
Yeah, it's been around for quite some time. Yeah.
So Folding at Home was a program which basically what Stanford did is they took all of these folding proteins, which were in queue to be done on supercomputers that use the same type of hashing. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. The same type of resources that are offered up in abundance by gaming computers and consumer electronics at home. Specifically, graphics cards. Particular types of graphics cards are better at this than others. And they essentially said, hey, you can donate your time and energy on these cards to research. We're going to break up all of these research bits that need to be done for these protein foldings into small tasks, and then we distribute those tasks to people. All this was done without blockchain, without any of that kind of stuff. And what KureCoin has done is really phenomenal. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Jake, but essentially what they've done is they've figured out a way to incentivize people to actually be a part of that. So instead of running a miner that just is out there trying to find a useless hash, in KureCoin, your miner is actually doing molecular research. It's folding proteins and helping to figure out the ways in which they fold. And so the other thing that Neureal could do for KureCoin, which in my opinion would be hugely beneficial, is KureCoin actually pays out a bonus if you are accurate and you're, because a lot of these proteins that are being unfolded, nobody knows whether they're going to be useful or not. We're just trying to unfold them or fold them. And essentially what Neureal could do that I find very interesting is that if you create a positive selection stream, like a stream that essentially is a live data stream that says, hey, this was actually useful and this was actually useful and this was actually useful, predictors on the Neureal network can then take that and use it to predict which bits of work, which proteins could be folded that would actually be most beneficial, and then that could be the work order in which it's worked on rather than just random whoever submits proteins to be folded. I find that intriguing because it could create a really interesting feedback loop there where it just continuously gets better and better. Did I get that right, Jake, or did I mess something up?
Oh, no, you did a way better job than I could ever describe it.
No problem, man. But we've been very excited about Jake's help.
Talk about some of the other projects?
No, please do. That's what I was just going to segue into. Is Jake's actually working on something else that we here at Neureal find very, very interesting. Go ahead and segue into your new project.
So what I'm doing is you're starting to see a lot of nowadays, all the scam coins and all these untrusted coins that are popping up. You don't know if they're legit. You don't know if they're going to run away with your money. You don't. All this kind of stuff, and it's terrible. And so I'm trying to gather a group of people, and we have actually a rather large following at the moment of science coins or any type of research or coins that actually do something that don't just do random hashes or whatever, just to secure. So they create incentivization for any type of science or whatever, let it be like mapping the Milky Way galaxy, or all sorts of different projects. So I want to find these trusted projects and add them to a trusted web domain called scienceblockchains.com. And don't if you go look it up now, don't judge me. I only spent 3 hours on it so far, so I'm still working on it. But that's kind of the idea, and that's if anyone wants.
Uh-oh. We lost you for a second there, but it was just right at the very end.
I was just saying, if anyone wanted to jump on the project with me or help me out with it, I mean, that would be greatly appreciated. We could work some sort of deal out.
What kind of help are you looking for on your project right now, Jake?
Any type of ideas for the site, different. If you guys know a coin that's trustworthy that you believe should fit the description or the title on the website, let's add it to it. Let's I'll obviously investigate the development team and see if they have the right direction or whatever. But let's create a group that has some sort of voting mechanism or something to create safe and secure investments for people, instead of people just losing their money.
No, I completely agree with you, and this is it gives me a good opportunity to talk about the maximum distribution protocol and the accountability protocol here in a minute. But no, I mean we need to do anything possible to try and avoid some of this. Well, not avoid, but try and minimize the damage of the scams happening in the space, because there's a ton of them. It's way too easy to scam somebody in the space, especially where we're dealing with an asset that. By its very nature, transactions cannot be reversed and should not be reversed. I mean, that's a part of the allure of this asset that we're talking about in the first place. But because of that, when a scam does take place, very obviously you can't recover your coins unless you can talk a project into hard forking, which, as we learned with Ethereum Classic, is not exactly a great choice. It can severely diminish the perceived accountability of the chain itself. It removes that layer of immutability. No, I completely agree, and I think that any combination of things we can do to try and help with that in the space is definitely a blessing. And not only that, but unfortunately, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Jake, I've been around the space for a really long time, and one of the things that I see is that coins that are legitimate tend to put a lot less into marketing, because marketing itself feels illegitimate a lot of times in the space. And so the type of marketing things which actually turn a lot of heads, like actual marketing campaigns on Google Ads and these big referral programs, like not all referral programs, but the referral programs that are run as kind of like a pyramid scheme. You don't see a lot of almost any legitimate projects using tools like that, and as a result, they get a lot less attention often than stuff that is either very marginally useful, or repeats of coins that are already on the market, or just outright scams. Am I right, Jake? Or do you see that differently?
No, I completely agree with that.
So it'd be really good to give those legitimate tokens and those legitimate projects the ability to collaborate and figure out better marketing strategies, and then hopefully help boost each other's signal.
Oh yeah, and share expenses and everything like that. Just make it easier and cheaper for everybody.
Absolutely. So no, we're really excited about that. Why don't you go ahead and drop that one more time? What was the name of the new project again? ScienceCoins.com?
Scienceblockchains.com.
Scienceblockchains.com. Perfect. And yeah, I can say with pretty good certainty that once that's live and there, Neureal's going to be a member of that. We've been invited, and we love the idea. So, and
remember, it's with an S at the end, because they've already made a scienceblockchain.com that tried to knock me off. So.
Which brings me into another good point about the Neureal project. Always go to Neureal.net. Neureal.com is not a thing. Neureal.org is not a thing. They are owned by domain poachers, and we have not yet been able to wrestle control of those from them. But Neureal.net, always net. In fact, we've considered referring to ourselves in all outbound communications as Neureal Net, just to try and get that point across to make sure that less people are potentially scammed. Well, geez, Jake, I really appreciate it. I especially appreciate you taking time out of when you're trying to drive and travel and get stuff done. Guys, I don't know if you know this, but Jake is an exceptionally busy guy. I have yet to try and talk to him on a day when he's not going somewhere doing something important. And so it's really great of him to take time out of his schedule to finally join us for a live stream. I know you guys probably haven't seen his, well, not his face, but his little Bitcoin cowboy hat logo in here before. But he has been working with us for a number of weeks and just keeps himself so consistently busy and running around that we haven't had time to get him on the live stream yet. So big thank you. Stick around if you like Jake. I'm sure there's other stuff you can comment on, but if you start running out of batteries, I totally understand. Guys, today is going to be a short stream. I have no indication that Jen's going to join us. Will is way too busy with coding, which is a good thing for us. However, I'd like to take a moment. Oh yeah, hey, our audience says thank you very much for being here, Jake. Our two guys in the audience. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say you guys are welcome. You know, anything to better the project. You know, I have this great vision in mind, and I'll do anything to make it work. So let's do it.
That's the only way to get stuff done, right? Stay humble, hustle hard. All right. So let's move on to some other fun stuff happening this week. I got a couple of really good questions from somebody. Well, first of all, I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but I did a video when I was out in Puerto Rico. I had an interview with a company called SCN Corporate Connect. People are saying they like my interview. I felt it was okay. I messed up some stuff, but what can you do? But I shared that video around, and I got a couple of really good questions from people who are now community members, but were outside the community when they asked it. And I wanted to kind of go over the answers to those with you because they're pretty common. They're pretty complex. Don't get me wrong. It's a complex question, but when you boil down to what he's actually asking, it's actually a really common thing people ask us all the time. Let me just scroll back through here. Probably should have had it saved. There it is. Nope, that's not it. Actually, I know exactly where I can find this. And then we go to Will. All right, you guys caught me. I've actually got it right here. I'm just stretching out time because this is such a short video. Just kidding. All right, so guy says, it's nice to hear the concern for initial distribution of a coin. Oh, speaking of which, before I get into this question, Jake actually brought up something really important that I wanted to be able to mention because any opportunity to talk about it's important. As part of holding coins accountable, you guys probably already know this if you're members of the Neureal community, but I'm going to say it again anyways, just in case somebody out there is watching this for the very first time. We've developed what we call the accountability protocol. And what the accountability protocol is that when we raise these funds, we don't get immediate access to those funds. Those funds are locked just like your tokens are locked. We instead receive distributions of those tokens that are pre-allocated. And the way that works, oh, bye, Jake. The way that works essentially is, oh, hello again, Jake. Anyhow, so the way that works is that those tokens are locked. We receive we receive distributions of it, and at each one of those distribution points to fund the development cycle, the community, all token holders, are given the opportunity to vote. And it's not a vote to give us the funds because we understand that it's time out of people's day. They may not be aware that the vote was taking place. We've noticed that those type of votes in a lot of other crypto communities usually go unparticipated in. So what we're offering instead is the ability to vote no confidence in our team, the direction that we're going, any of the above. And if enough of the community members vote no confidence, we're still working on what that critical number is. But if a large enough portion of the community feel that we are not headed in the right direction, we're not responsibly managing our funds, we're not delivering on the vision that we raised money in order to deliver, you guys have the ability to vote no confidence, and then all of those tokens, all of that Ethereum, which we have not yet used, is then immediately refunded to the token holders in direct proportion to how many tokens you put into the in direct proportion to how many tokens you put into Neureal in the first place. Meaning that we have no opportunity to run off with your funds. We have no opportunity to go a different direction after raising money and essentially say, hey, we're going to create another Twitter or whatever. Multiple other projects have done this where they raised funds on an initial vision and then pivoted really hard and went an entirely different direction. If Neureal doesn't deliver, you folks have a guaranteed mechanism to get your money back. Not just your money, but the entire community. What goes along with that is the maximum distribution protocol, which I've talked about before, but I'll say it again. So essentially, like when you sign up, you're going to do a KYC process. If you're eligible, you get to whitelist one address. You get one purchase from that whitelisted address for the entire length of the token sale. Token sales, like buy orders, are processed in the order that they're received, but tokens are released in buckets of 1.23333 million. If you buy out the last token in a bucket, your buy order then gets kicked to the very back of the line. So if you're a whale and you want to buy out several of these really cheap buckets of tokens, you can't do it. You buy the last token in the bucket, your order is kicked to the very end, and then all of the small players in between get another bite at the apple before you do. This ensures that everybody gets an equal chance to buy, and it ensures that whales don't have the opportunity to collude and get in on these cheaper tokens. Yeah, I love it. I think that progress like this, and especially if we're successful in doing what we're trying to do, and if that gets spread throughout, it's also going to help accomplish one of Jake's goals, which is to make sure that these scam tokens aren't able to continue. Why would you invest in any token that doesn't have something like the accountability protocol written in? That's all just smart contract, and it's not that hard to do. We're open source as well, which means that other people will be able to look into our code and pull out the accountability protocol, modify it to make it fit their project, and then slap it on in. So there's no reason not to have it in future, and honestly, it really is, like, when we talk about self-regulation, this is what we're talking about. Jake, I've been talking for a bit. You want to add anything to that? No.
To be honest, I actually arrived at my destination, so I may actually have to cut out.
That's
but,
A-okay. Thank you. No questions for you.
Have them message you, and then I'll get you.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. Guys, if you need to get a hold of Jake, by the way, he's in our Telegram. He's there day and night. So talk to you soon, Jake.
Thanks, yeah.
Oops. Oops. Wasn't supposed to do that. Oh well. Carrying on. So, maximum distribution protocol, accountability protocol. What was I talking about next? I think that might have been it, guys. Like I said, we're going to start that bounty program really soon. We'd like to get all of you that are currently in the community involved and get you rewarded for the tasks. A lot of these are tasks that you guys have already done. If you follow us on Twitter, if you follow us on Facebook, if you're in the Telegram, those are all things you're going to be rewarded for. Making videos for us. Wait! There is something! Haha! The video contest is launching soon, you guys. We are about to be launching the Neureal video contest. I'm going to announce a slim version of the rules here. For the full version of the rules, wait for a couple of days until I finish editing my video and then can get it out. But essentially, the Neureal video contest is an opportunity for you, the community, to share your vision of what you would do with the power of Neureal. What would you do if you were given the ability to see the future and you were able to pay for predictions? We want to hear that. We want to hear it in your own words, and we feel that it would be very powerful for the rest of the crypto community to be able to hear that in your own words. So it's going to be a video under 2 minutes in which you take a little bit of time to explain in your own words what Neureal is, and then explain what you would do with the power of Neureal and how that would affect those around you. So the way that the contest is going to work, you get to submit your videos right up till the end of the token generation event. A vote is taken. Like, internally, we're going to select up to 10 finalists. Those finalists, like, the only reason that we're doing that is because A lot of people are very confused about what Neureal is and what its actual potential is and what it can actually do. A lot of them are still confused about the decision-making process and a few of those other kinds of things. The way that this is going to work is we select 10 finalists whose dreams are possible for Neureal to do, and then the token holder community then gets to take a vote on which dream they want to endow. So they select the ultimate winner. What the winner gets is a large pot of Neureal, and the Neureal Foundation will then take their vision and make it the first thing that the Neureal Foundation puts on to, it's the first prediction that the Neureal Foundation is going to put onto onto the Neureal network as soon as the Neureal network goes live and is open for public use, has been tested, and is secure, and all of the other things that we need to make sure are in a row before we let people start throwing their data at the network. But I think that's fantastic. You tell us what your dream is, and if the community votes, it comes true. I think that's fantastic. Also, those 10 finalists, up to 10 finalists, they'll each be given a small pool of Neureal tokens just for being selected as a finalist. So it's going to be a lot of fun, I think. If you're here in the chat, tell me, what's your idea for a video? What would you do with it? Moving on, let's talk about those questions that we got. This user said, it was a nice short interview. I appreciate that, by the way. And it's nice to hear the concern for initial distribution of a coin. I have a couple of questions. And as a disclaimer, I only skimmed your white paper. Shame, for shame. No, I'm just kidding. It's a massive white paper. It's okay. First, the issue of decentralization and scalability. What new and innovative way does Neureal distribute data streams that is scalable and trustless? So I'm going to stop here and start answering this particular question. There's a number of ways to answer this, because it's kind of clear that because he didn't read the full white paper yet, he's not entirely sure what we're doing. The first part of this question is the data streams themselves are being distributed via homomorphic encryption. And what that means is that private data stays private. The AI agents are still able to work with it, but they cannot communicate what they're working on, the data stream that they're working on, back across through the homomorphic encryption in a format that's going to make any kind of sense to the people trying to gain information from it. So if you've got private data like a Fitbit stream that you're trying to feed into this, it goes into a homomorphically encrypted pool is what I'm just going to call it. It's probably not what it's called, but there you have it. It gets encrypted. AI agents can still work on that data even though they can't communicate what that data is outwardly. So that's one thing that we're doing. But the second thing that you have to realize is that, remember how we talk all the time about how we're not building AGI. We're not building artificial generalized intelligence. What we're building is a prediction algorithm competition platform. And what this means is that essentially, if you look at stuff like deep brain chain and those sorts of things, they are more trying to build artificial generalized intelligence. And the problem there is that as the data has to move from node to node, it gets slowed down because it takes considerably long time in processing terms to get from my computer over here even to the person downstairs in the other workspace. If I was to try and send them a file, those take hundreds of microseconds in order to transition the internet, possibly longer. And so that's pretty unacceptable when you talk about large, fast-acting artificial general intelligence. It allows you to bump up your processing power way beyond the scope of anything that's currently available in a set location. But because it's not transferring via wires, that data takes a much longer time to filter to all those locations. Not something we're concerned about, though, because again, all of the actual processing is taking place on the cards that are mining it. Or if somebody puts together, for instance, Watson, you could use Watson as a predictor on our network. Watson's got a whole lot of power behind it, but it would only represent one predictor on the network, and that predictor is not communicating information bits back and forth to other predictors, right? It's only spitting out a prediction stream to the Neureal blockchain, okay? In the same way, what we're launching, the kind of the plug-and-play solution, we're calling it our default prediction strategy, or our DPS. That's going to run on your computer. It's looking at data streams that are somewhere else, and it's feeding out data streams that are from somewhere else. But it's not taking the work of processing those and splitting it across multiple computers, all right? That's all happening on one computer or one farm of computers, depending on how you set it up, right? Does that make a lot of sense, guys? That's how we get around that problem, is that we just don't have it. It's not related to what we're doing in our field. So the next part of the question, though, is also the second question is also highly interesting. He says, second, I read that your proof of work is prediction, which I want to make clear is not true. That would actually be proof of prediction. That's not what we're doing. But I'd contend that prediction is not nearly instantaneously verifiable like a hash is. I am limiting this to temporal predictions because predicting the characteristics of something from the past could be fake. Further predictions that are worth something are computationally intensive because you are predicting further and further. So this decreases the time to verify if it is true. Thanks for your time. I'm interested in AI, consensus, and data rights. My intent is to get into the nitty-gritty. Well, you did. I'm not going to mention your name for privacy's sake, but you did get into the nitty-gritty, and I love the questions that you're asking. But again, and I did explain this to him already, we're not actually doing proof of prediction, guys. Our proof of work is not prediction. It's an easy mistake to make, though. We're doing proof of stake. Proof of stake is what manages our blockchain. It might have... We've talked about incorporating like a potential proof of work algorithm in there to help prevent syndicates forming, but in my opinion, we'll see how that goes long term. I think a lot of proof of stake algorithms are looking at ways to make proof of stake and proof of work play nice together. But here's why we're doing that. All of that hash power that would traditionally go to securing our blockchain, we need that to be running predictions. Those predictions are not what secures the blockchain. It's the information that's being passed on the blockchain. Does that make sense? So the staking is what actually protects the network and actually does the verification of transactions. The actual work that's happening is happening on real problems, real human problems, not just going out and trying to find a nonce. It's a huge deal to me because all of this power and electricity that is currently, and time and production capability, which is currently going to just securing a coin that doesn't necessarily need all of that hash power in order to secure it when there's other methods and algorithms for doing that much more efficiently. Instead, we can take all that spare computing power and we can actually put it to use for individual humans and their questions, giving everybody equal access to these massive powerful tools that are being used by the top 1% of companies all over the world in order to already predict the future. In my opinion, guys, this is a fantastic little coup de grace. Great question. Glad you asked it. Are there any other questions from the community before I decide to wrap this up a little early? I'm going to look through some of the questions that have been asked inside the Neureal chat and see if there's anything for you guys. Oh, here's a good one. So another member of the Neureal community asked a question, was answered by Jen the other night. He goes, many projects are delaying their token sale. Most have a reason due to unfavorable market condition, but for me, more concerning is about the U.S. government's intervention with uncertain regulation. Since many of our team live in the U.S., could we please update you on how the situation is right now over here? So my initial answer is yes, that's a great observation. It definitely was a factor in us delaying our token sale. If we want to distribute it to the maximum number of people possible, it's largely self-defeating to do it in the middle of a bull market or near the end of a bear market, where the majority of small players are affected to a greater degree than large players. It gives large players a large advantage when the market's down like this because there's less free money from these smaller investors to be able to throw around. They're concerned about just the health of their portfolios, let alone everything else. But when you've got a much larger playing stack, it's not nearly as worrisome. So there's that element to it. But here's what Jen said, and I quite like it. She goes, great question. I can only speak to the conversations our attorney has had with the SEC and how he's advising us. We're predicting, based on the likelihood that the SEC would interpret our Neureal token, the one being offered during the public sale, as a security. Marco Santori at Cooley agrees, the main deciding factor being the distance between the purchase of the token and the point at which it gets exchanged for a neuron. Remember that we're not, like, what's being offered in our token generation event, those cannot actually be used to gain predictions. Those are going to be locked, and then once the Neureal network is open, they get replaced 1-1 with the actual neuron token, and then the other ones get burned. They stop existing and stop mattering. The neurons are the thing you're actually going to be able to use to gain predictions from the network. the reason we're doing this is many-fold, but a large part of the thing is we can't have you guys spitting personal data onto the network before it's been proven to be secure. That puts you and us in a bad position. So instead, the testnet is going to be operating on its own special testnet token. And then when the network does finally open up, is proven to be secure, has proven to be successful, has proven that it can dramatically increase accuracy over time through the competition platform. At that point is when we're going to make the network live and then replace all the tokens that we're selling one for one with neurons, which actually work. This is like a pre-order of neurons at an extreme discount. In the same way that if you went out to pre-order a game, they would give you a certificate that says, yes, you pre-ordered the game, and then when you go to pick up the game, you exchange that certificate for the game itself. Does that make sense? So, okay, moving on. So, the SEC's recommendation was that we're fine as long as we treat it like a security offering, which we are. We will be filing a Form D in applicable states and federal levels and have already complied with the 506C regulation for tokens sold to this point. In the U.S., tokens are only available to accredited investors. The token is restricted to for more than a year and will never be transferable. Again, once the token generation event is over, those tokens get locked in their wallets. They're never transferable. Once they get exchanged for neurons, those neurons will be transferable, but the tokens that we're selling will never ever be transferable. Once again, we're doing this. We're doing things that we believe are setting the standard for best practices going forward. The creation of this interrupt token is one we will likely see in more projects. Same with the maximum distribution protocol, I hope, as well as the milestone protocol. That's what I'm calling the accountability protocol, and it's vote of no confidence. So, yeah, that's it, guys. I think that's it for the week. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the Telegram chat. If you haven't done so already, join us on Telegram. If you're brand new here, head over to Neureal.net. That's where you can learn more about our project and actually dig into our white paper, get to see what we're doing, the actual mechanics of what we're doing, and how you can get involved, as well as downloading a prototype of our predictor right now. Let's see. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, hit the little bell icon to be notified of when we're going to be going live. We're going to be here again next week, Saturday, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, as always. Thank you so much for being here, especially you, Shadow, and I will see you next week, folks.